Notre Dame fans, welcome back to the Irish Breakdown podcast. It is still Saturday night, Vince. It
Yes.
is
That's like the
after, it is
goal.
post-game show time. Notre Dame came out on top against North Carolina, 44-34. A lot of offense in this game, really a tale of two halves. There's a lot to talk about from this game, Vince, but the couple things that stand out to me to begin is number one, got it done, got the W. This is one of two teams left on the schedule that scared me to the point where Notre Dame didn't have to play bad to lose to them. If Notre Dame plays its game, there's nobody on the schedule that's beating them, right?
Agreed.
Nobody.
Agreed.
It's just that if they don't play well, this is one of those teams that could have beat them. And tonight, Notre Dame did what it needed to do. And what I liked about this game was it was a good team win in a lot of regards. Now, we've talked about this. The defense has been carrying the offense all season. The defense carried the team last year, the year before that, and at parts in the 2018 season. Tonight, the defense was bad. And the special teams had some huge mistakes in this game. Had a couple big plays. Jonathan Dorr was perfect on his field goals, but also gave up some big mistakes. The late return at the end of the first half that set Carolina up for a field goal. You had short punts by Jay Bramlett.
Yep.
And yet the offense, which has been carried for so long, said, "Okay, we got you. Okay, right. We'll take care of this tonight." And I know there's a lot of. I'm actually surprised. There's a lot of people that are upset with this win, and there's certainly some things to be frustrated by.
Of course there are.
This is a good win for Notre Dame because they continue to not play at their best. The best part of their team had a really rough night, didn't have their All-American, and yet they still beat one of the 3 or 4 best teams on the schedule by 10. And it should have been by a lot more.
It absolutely should have been. Yes.
So good win. And we're going to dive into some things about it, Vince, but I wanted to get some super chats in here. Benjamin Weiss, my guy. Dang it. I got tar on my heel. Seriously, I can't stand that school. Glad we won. Yes, won, and they covered the spread, which is a good thing. We've got John A1 with a super chat. John, thank you. Benjamin, thank you for your super chat. John, thank you for your super chat. Marcus Freeman is going to need to get these guys better by the Virginia game. These guys need to learn how to tackle. We will definitely get into that. They missed Sam Howell, and he wasn't even making a move, just decided to go run. We will definitely, John, definitely talk a lot about the defense and tackling in this game. That is certainly going to be a topic of conversation. David Kirkpatrick, love the show. That first drive, you guys called it. Passing creates the running game, not vice versa. Exciting game. Go Irish. Brian Kelly even said this after the game, Vince. On the TV interview, which I know you can't hear up in the press box. He talked about how the passing game opened up running lanes. And it was like, yeah, of course it does. So that was obviously good to hear. And I don't think Vince can hear me right now. I don't believe. So I'm talking. He's not responding. So Vince looks like he's having some technical problems up there. Get to some more super chats here before we really get diving into this show. Matt Baisley has promised 10% of that cover bet. Go Irish. Also, does Cone throw too hard? So many drops. The drops he had were not hard throws. They were not hard throws at all. And we will talk about those here in a second too. Matt, thank you very much for that. And I'm glad you ended up going with the bet because, and I'll tell you what, I bet you were getting a little nervous on that last drive. When Notre Dame was letting North Carolina kind of get down the field, they were going to give up a score if they were willing to, but then luckily the front four finally took over and was able to bring him down. And I didn't think they were going to call the intentional grounding. I was glad they did because that basically ended the game. So we appreciate that. We appreciate that super chat very, very much. Triple Deck Poe, too many third down and distance conversions for North Carolina. The D was gassed in the fourth quarter. They were. We will get into that as well. Thank you, Triple Deck Poe, for the super chat. Got a few more down here that I want to get to before we really rock and roll into these. Mark E. Stewart, I'm really happy we won the game. Number 21 is the real deal. Great experience for freshmen. The freshman class for the second game in a row looked really good. And we're going to talk about a sequence in that game that I thought was huge from a coaching quarterbacking and freshman standpoint. We'll certainly get into that. Mark, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Definitely a good win. I'm happy. Again, I think we're really happy we won the game. I think that's a good comment to be. I'm really happy they won the game. As a coach, I'm frustrated by a lot of things, but this is a game you could have lost, and Notre Dame didn't. In fact, they only really trailed once the whole game, and that was for a series when North Carolina took that lead in the third quarter, and then Notre Dame immediately went back and took the lead, and I don't believe they trailed the rest of the game.
Mm-mm.
So for all the complaining, they trailed for like 3 minutes in this entire game.
We'll get to the complaining because I have complaints too. But
so do I. So do I.
I mean,
but I think sometimes we need to make sure we're not focusing so much on the negatives that we miss the fact that they just beat North Carolina by 10 points in a game they kind of controlled for a decent chunk of the game.
And look, you made a good point at halftime that this team averages, buckets of points, and they've got 10.
Defense ended up with like 13. Like the defense held them. Yeah, it was not a good performance. Still held them under their season scoring average.
Correct. Exactly. So I mean, there is some silver lining there. Yes, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yes. Ryan Feeks with a $10 super chat. Thank you also, Ryan. Big win. Yeah. Kyren Williams is the heartbeat. Scum losing today makes it that much sweeter.
That was sweet.
It really does. And to watch Michigan blow an 18-point second-half lead made it even better. Like, I would rather have seen that than Michigan State just destroying Michigan.
It was beautiful. I mean, just everything about that game was beautiful.
Yep. That's what I'll say. And that was, be honest with you, okay, take my Michigan hate aside, that was a great game. That was a really fun game.
Yeah, it was.
Watch, but I still hate Michigan, and I'm glad they lost. Corey D with a super chat. It would be nice to see Collie getting snaps. Is Tyree still hurt? No, he returned kicks. I like Diggs, but Tyree needs to play. I think they both need to play. I almost lost it when they put Matt Salerno in the game. Matt Salerno got more snaps on offense than Chris Tyree. However, that's not a shot on Matt Salerno because, yes, he had a great block on one of those runs.
Yeah, that was a beautiful
That kid plays his butt off.
He does.
There's no doubt. Let's see. A few more here. Love the super chats pouring in. Nick Tony with a $10 super chat. Payback for some of the cookies my kids ate last week. And Nate, thank you so much for that. You do not obviously not have to do that. I know one of your kids was Peyton, and I was trying to tell my wife about him, and I remembered Peyton, and I thought the other one was Landon, but I can't remember if I got those right. So let me know because I was trying to tell my wife about your kids.
Great family. That was
absolutely
one of my highlights of the tailgate.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Thank you for the super chat, Nate. And the cookies did not cost $10. So I've made out on this deal. Michael Porton, 2022, we start the season against Ohio State. I understand that Jack Cohn gives us the best chance to win now, but the inexperience hurt us. But no, because Tyler Buckner's playing every game.
Yeah, exactly.
And got plenty of time to get into that.
Right.
But no,
and he has spring and he has fall.
It's a fair question, Michael. But look, the reality is Notre Dame has to win this year. This is the winning now is all that matters. They have a whole offseason to get ready for Ohio State. The reality is Tyler Buckner is going to get plenty of experience, including throwing another touchdown pass in this game. So I liked the way they used the quarterback today for the most part. I could nitpick a couple things, but overall, I was happy. The only time I didn't like it is when they went 13 personnel 3 times inside the 5-yard line with Jack Cohn at quarterback.
When all they did was use 11 to get down there.
Made no sense to me. Robert Thidoff with a super chat. Thank you for that, Robert. B&V, Brian and Vince, love the win, but the loss of Cincinnati makes me sick. We are at least 14 points better than them. They have shown every week since Notre Dame lost to them that they are not very good. I've said it at the time. They are not a good football team. And we don't need to get into the fact that Tulane rushed for twice as many yards against them than Notre Dame did, but we'll get back to that. David Becker with a super sticker. Thank you for that, David. Zach Martin with a super sticker. Thank you for that, Zach. And I think our Marine TJ0311 with a super sticker as well. I want to get through all these so we can get into this. Coleman Clark, we could have used Luafau as a pass rusher on third down when Howell got loose. I think they could have used him as a pass rusher in coverage, chasing down Sam Howell on first and second. They could have used Maris a lot tonight. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the linebackers. Anthony L., red zone play calling, confusing again. Vince can't be happy. Wisconsin win looking better. I'm sure Vince is not happy about the red zone play calling, but they got the W. So I'm going to go down here. I think I might have missed some of these. Let me just make sure I got everybody that, okay, I think I got everybody. Yep, got everybody, Vince. So thanks to everybody for the super chats.
Awesome. Way to kick it off, everybody.
So here we go, Vince. Good team win. Got it done. This is a very inconsistent Notre Dame football team. This is a very sloppy Notre Dame football team.
Yeah.
Stupid procedure penalties on offense that just stall drives. Drop passes on plays where you're like, what are you doing? Jack Cohn missing a couple throws, but just the drops drive me nuts. You've got missed tackles galore. You've got silly special teams mistakes. And Notre Dame won by 10 against a decent North Carolina team. It just goes to show anyone that's going to come at me and say, Notre Dame's just not real talented. They don't have, this team is not coached fun. They do not play fundamentally sound football at any position except for maybe one, and that's defensive line. And even the defensive line tonight had some major contained tackling issues in this game. So just the lack of fundamentals is disturbing. And I just that is one thing that really bothered me in this game, Vince. Just all around, Ali Muhammad, thank you very, very much for that. That to me was one of the two takeaways is 21-yard touchdown. He had a 21-yard touchdown run, and they called a quarterback draw to Jack Cohn.
Crazy.
That went for 8 yards.
I text Brian and I go, because obviously I'm ahead of things, for the TV copy and all that. And I text Brian as soon as he ran that, and I go, you're gonna crap yourself when you see the next play.
Yeah,
because
I'm on. He knows I'm on streaming, so not
Right.
only am I like behind for normal TV, I'm behind even more
Right.
because of streaming.
Yeah,
and normally I know what's about to happen because I have the Notre Dame stats up, and
Right.
and they're usually like when they were lining up, I already knew that Kyren Williams had ran for a 91-yard touchdown. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Didn't turn out how I thought it was going to turn out.
No, not a chance.
But it was a brilliant run nonetheless. But to me, the thing I liked about this win tonight, Vince, as a team is I thought that they battled. They responded every time North Carolina seemed to be ready to take momentum in this game. They answered. Usually it was the offense. Sometimes it was the defense. The defense, as bad as the defense played, they had also some stops in this game that were impactful. They had a first down. They had a first down stop in forced a punt on the first drive of the game. Twice North Carolina got in the red zone in the first half. They held them to field goals. They had a stop. They had a third quarter stop, right? So when Notre Dame went up, was it 24-20? The defense came back they had a false start. North Carolina did. Then the defense had a stop. Jason Adamiola has a great pressure, forces a check down. 3 guys tackled the guy short of the stick. They had to review it. 3 and out. Right. Notre Dame goes down and scores.
I thought I almost thought that they might go for it there. I was nervous.
Yeah. Oh, I get that for sure. I get that. I actually made sure I brought my notes with me this time. But then the defense is just kind of giving up yards and yards and yards, and then the offense kind of gets momentum. I really thought, okay, here we go. North Carolina's got the momentum back again, right? And then the defense comes up and makes a stop. So even though the defense struggled, they still made plays and stops. DJ Brown has that second half pick, which really that was when North Carolina's chance to win. Their window to come back and win was gone when DJ Brown picked that pass off.
Yes.
So they did what they needed to do, Vince. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to get into some nitpicking here tonight, but we're going to talk about some positive. We're going to obviously have more tomorrow. But this team, I'll say this too. Tonight was the most heart I thought this team played with on both sides of the ball. The defense was sloppy, but I thought they battled without their star. But the offense, especially, this was the most heart that this unit played with all season by far. And it starts, and we're going to kick things off with the offense here. It really starts, Vince, with number 23. We're going to get into game plan and the quarterback play and the line. But I would fire myself if we didn't start the offensive conversation with, wow, this is the 3rd week in a row. And I've never done this before, except for like a freshman maybe playing his first, second, and third game. I've never said this before where a player for 3 games in a row had the best game of his career. I said it against Virginia Tech.
That's true.
I said he was even better against USC. And this wasn't just the best game of his career. This is one of the best running back performances by individual performance by Notre Dame running back that I've ever seen. He had a 91-yard touchdown that should have been a 3-yard loss.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. Because it has to be put into context. I mean, his performance has to be put into context with what is happening in front of him. And there's not many running backs in the country that can run for 199 yards behind this offensive line.
In the way they played tonight.
Correct. I mean, just period. I mean, that's all that needs to be said. I challenge anybody to look up the full game, rewatch this game, watch the offensive line, not knowing that Kyren Williams is going to do what he did, and be like, yeah, of course, a back is going to go for 199 yards. And you know what? On top of that, this team's going to rush for 293 yards behind that line. There's no chance. No chance.
Yeah.
That I would believe that in a million years.
Yeah. And Neil Walker had a super chat. We found a run game. QB system works. This defense is different with Kyle erasing mistakes. I can finally see how this team could compete with Georgia. We'll get into that. We won't get into that right this second. But I think the comment that I liked from Neil, and thank you for that super chat, Neil, is you say we found a run game. And really the run game is what we've said it was for the last couple weeks. And what I mean by that is all this is what we've said since the preseason, and it was never more evident than tonight. If the offensive line just plays hard and gets a body on a body, this team can run the ball because of if they run the offense correctly. Right. And I think Brian Kelly said it after the game. It's what we've been preaching about for months, which is when you attack the perimeter with your RPO in quick game, it's going to open up running lanes for Kyren Williams. And we saw that so many times tonight. Yeah. And all you need to do with the way that Kyren has played this season, and it goes all the way back to the Toledo game. He had one snap in that game where they actually blocked a body on a body, and he went for 40 yards.
Right.
I think he did it again against Purdue the next week. And we've said, if they can just get a body on a body, this kid's going to go nuts because – Vince, I've never seen a running back that makes something out of nothing. I guarantee it's at least 5 carries that went for 6+ yards that should have been negatives.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
there were
unreal.
There were a few plays in the second half where if he doesn't get shoestring tackled kind of going through that second level, he's to the house again. And you know what I mean? And that had nothing to do with the blocking. Like that was all him.
The best block on that play, you're talking about the 91-yarder?
No, I'm just talking in general.
Yeah, the best block on the 91-yard touchdown was about 40 yards downfield, which was a phenomenal block by Michael Mayer down the field. That would have been a 50-yard gain.
Yes.
Still a tremendous run. But it would have only been a 50-yard gain if not for Michael Mayer's downfield. And Davis also by not just laying that guy out behind him. I thought he was about to.
I thought he was too, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And total heads up play. I mean, it was a great play all around. Yeah. I mean, obviously great individual effort by Kyren. I mean, I'm sure that Michael Mayer had no plans that there was going to be a run behind him, but great job. And Avery Davis got on his horse to catch up to Kyren Williams on that play. Yes. I mean, that was it showed how fast Davis is. I was very, very impressed with that as well.
There were so many times tonight, and Logan Diggs had some good runs tonight too, where it's just like they just kind of sit back and just say, okay, where's the hole going to come open?
Yeah, it's funny because as I watch, there were times where I confused Diggs with Williams because I'm up on the 9th floor.
The patience and
yeah, it's like what a great guy to have in the room to emulate.
Then you see the cutback and you say, oh, there's not as much burst with that guy.
Yeah, well, exactly.
That's how you tell the difference.
And I thought Diggs had a good game. I thought he did a good job. But he's kind of modeling his game after Kyren Williams. Not a bad role model to have, but to have him in the room with you.
And that's what he did in high school.
Great.
And he was like that in high school. But what I think we've seen with Kyren is he's got someone that he can say, oh yeah, I mean, it's like, this is where you need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it allows him to maximize what he does. And I think there's a lot of Notre Dame fans feeling the way that Tyler Reese does right here.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can't watch that kid play and not love it. I mean, just like we've seen passion and grit right there. I think that's the best thing, but it's not just about passion and grit for me. It's about tremendous skill.
Yeah.
I mean, his vision tonight in the last 3 games has just been like, baseball players, hitters and shooters, in the NBA or college basketball, they get into a zone, right? And you don't often see skill players getting into zones. Usually it's like a quarterback, right? But Kyren Williams is like mentally is on a different planet right now. with his decision making and his
Agreed.
vision. I mean, his decision. I mean, the ability to be patient and then the burst to still make plays. I don't look like we've seen Notre Dame rip off 90-yard runs before. Josh Adams had a couple of them.
Yeah,
CJ Prosite, but they were plays where like the line was breaking open these
just
giant holes,
and then
like
just a sprint.
Josh Adams, I mean, he was so good in 2017, but there were so many runs where he just never got touched.
Right.
That does not happen with Kyren Williams.
No.
I mean, he literally got touched by almost every defender that North Carolina had on that 91-yard touchdown run. We just made him all miffy. He's like stiff arming dudes.
And that stiff arm, dude.
It was impressive.
That was a man's stiff arm. Like he took that kid and he put him head first into the ground. And I mean, it looked
that right there by Steel Horseman is absolutely right.
It was that. I mean, that was a stiff arm. Like he's got a good stiff arm. And we saw Tyler Buckner with a bit of a stiff arm tonight, but that stiff arm on the 91-yard run was just, it was mean. I mean, it was uncalled for and it was mean.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way possible.
Yep. So I was in the Anthony says BD did 23 scale up the best captains list yet. KW arguably carried Notre Dame to the win last 2 weeks. We've never said he's not a great player. There's just I don't know why we got to do this, right? Like one game. So if he goes out and fumbles the ball like he did against Toledo, do I then strip that? Can we just enjoy his performance tonight, which was tremendous? But the one thing we have said all year about Kyren Williams is the fact that his energy lifts people up around him.
Yeah.
And you have the way that he's running right now, and it started last week, you have to, and Anthony's my guy, but I love Anthony, but I mean, come on, my man. Thank you for that, Christopher. But the thing is, John Gallagher says this, KW's must-watch TV. Thank you for your super chat, John. The most entertaining Notre Dame player week to week since Ismail. Love the show. If you aren't a champion board member, I highly recommend it. I recommend that too, John. Thank you for that very, very much.
I think we missed a super chat, and I know it's about defense, but I don't want to miss it. So
I saw that one.
I just don't want to lose it. So I want to throw it up, and I'm going to make a note to make sure we talk about it. But Christopher Federico, thanks for the super chat. He says, I know you guys have been calling for Foskey to rush more. He was unstoppable except when they had him rushing from inside in the first half.
Yeah.
So,
we got another one by Patrick Barnes. I'm going to bring that up here in a second because it was about Tommy Reese. I know we're not going to lose that one.
Okay.
But, this is interesting right here. Most entertaining player since Ismail. He's definitely in that conversation. I mean, Reggie Brooks is in that conversation for me. Julius Jones and that his last season was pretty good. Michael Floyd, Golden Tate, but he's in that conversation with those guys. And to me, what makes it so fun is that he's not doing it with a typical Notre Dame offensive line. I mean, he that's the thing that I just can't get past is. And absolutely right here. I can't get past how many yards he had tonight, Vince, where there was nothing. I mean, just nothing there.
Oh, yeah.
And he turns it into something. It was a really special performance. But again, we're going to have plenty to say positively, negative about the offensive line. But again, this is what they just need to keep doing. Just keep a body on a body. Because here's the thing. If you go back and look at that 91-yard run where they got blown up, and they got blown up. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't allow free runners. They at least stayed on a body. Like Joe Alt got beat inside, but he stayed on that guy. And then when Kyren cut it back, Joe was then able to flatten the guy.
He flattened him out. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so that's the key. Just stay on people.
Right.
Stay on guys. You don't have to dominate. You don't have to dominate.
Quit. Yeah, I agree with that.
So, John Long, thank you for that super chat. So we have some more comments there, but I want to kind of get into just sort of the game plan here because it was a really interesting game plan. Patrick Barnes said that seemed to be Reese's best play calling this year, in my opinion. He has answers to all of North Carolina adjustments. What y'all think? I thought he was better last week, but I thought he called a good game. I want to talk about that, Vince. First and foremost, I thought they were a little too conservative in the first half. A lot of dinks and dunks, like just no shots
stretching
in the first
field
half
at all. And there was some complaints on the board about that. And I was like, look, there's nothing going deep. He can't stretch the field because
that wasn't a jack.
He's not throwing.
Can you explain that, Vince? Because you were there, you could see the whole thing. So what I saw, you correct me if I'm wrong. They weren't calling deep shots, or for the first 28 minutes, they weren't calling. 26 minutes, they weren't calling anything deep Cone could attack.
The only time they would have a vertical route, right, a stretched route, was to clear out for an underneath. I mean, that's what they were doing. There was no intention on throwing to those guys. It was literally to clear out, and they did it multiple times and in different ways. Sometimes it would be Kyren underneath. Sometimes it would be Michael Mayer underneath. Sometimes it was Avery Davis underneath. But they would clear out with the outside receiver, and then they would bring somebody else underneath. And it was obviously a concept that was working, and so they just kept going back to it. But it's not one that's going to stretch the field.
They were clearly early in the game looking to run some clock. I mean, that's kind of how I felt
and keep the ball out of the hands of the offense. To a degree, I get it.
Yes. I also think they wanted to try to at least get something going early. And I think, to me, honestly, even though it was a well-called game, it was a solid game in the first half, in my opinion, the first 26 minutes. I thought they did the first drive. They did a good job going 11 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into a situation where you're driving and you get into North Carolina territory, and they bring in Tyler Buckner, and you don't get the right personnel on the field. You got to call timeout.
Yeah.
And then you come back out with 12 personnel and run, like gain of 4, gain of 0. I got on my 1st and 10, right side blown up, 2nd and 6, 0 push. And then now you're in the 3rd and 6. They know it's a pass and they undercut it, and it's a covered sack, right? And it was just kind of like one of those things where we saw that a few times tonight, where it's like, okay, 11's going, 11 personnel's rolling, you're getting it out quick, and then as soon as the momentum got stalled, the offense kind of stalled.
Yeah.
Which has been an issue all year. I thought the one complaint I had about Reese all night, and this actually continued in the second half, was the usage of personnel at times was frustrating. And then, like, they get inside they had 2 drives, and I mean, Notre Dame should have hung 60 on North Carolina tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had 2 drives ended the 2. Another drive ends of the 13, and a lot of it was about silly, sloppy plays. You had an illegal snap by a snap procedure by Jared Patterson. You had Kristofic had a false start. You had a holding for Michael Mayer. Just some of those sloppy plays and the drops we still saw too much of. But I'll tell you what, they couldn't run the ball in the first half because, again, they weren't doing anything to soften North Carolina up. I think they only had like 50 yards rushing the first half, something like that. Like, they weren't running the ball at all.
Yeah,
Jack was real efficient, smart decisions, getting the ball out quickly. But I'm looking at it here. The first touchdown drive was set up because they got the ball in Carolina territory because of the Kyren Williams. And that's one thing. Kyren had a great game. He also had a 47-yard punt return that set up the first score. We didn't even talk about that. You know what I mean? Like, it adds to just how brilliant he was tonight. Then I thought that that first touchdown drive, I really liked what we saw from Tyler Buckner, his decision-making tonight. Tyler had one mistake tonight, in my opinion. On the touchdown drive where Logan Diggs went over the top, the run before that where Tyler pulled it and ran it, if he hands it off to Logan Diggs, he's in the end zone.
Yep.
And his read should have been to hand it off. Other than that, his decision-making and the read zone stuff, they ran power read, they ran read zone. They opened it up
for him.
They did.
Well, I was calling for them to open up his package a little bit, and I thought that they did. There was more movement. There was more pre-snap movement. There was some more misdirection when he was in the game. I thought they did open it up.
They didn't call a single pass for him, like pure pass for him.
Like a straight-up pass, right.
Right, but even then, he made good decisions. Like, so if you go back and watch the touchdown pass he threw, you've got a trips to the right. You're running a counter to the left with a bubble screen to the right. He is reading number 17, that flat. He's kind of like that alley defender. He's splitting the difference between the tackle and Avery Davis. Tyler knows we've got leverage. So he catches the ball, just throws the bubble, and that guy can't get out to Avery Davis fast enough, especially when Michael Mayer had the phenomenal block he had that allowed Avery to stay wide. If Mayer gets beat there and he has to cut it back tight, that guy could get out there maybe before he scores, right? Great decision by Tyler. Accurate ball, allowed Avery to catch it and stay downhill. The second throw he had, because I think he only had 2 passing attempts in the game, right, Vince?
I believe that is accurate, yep.
The second time they're running a bootleg RPO. He's ready to tuck it and run, and all of a sudden he sees that guy coming up, and he quickly pops it and just dumps it right over top to Mayer for a 10-yard gain.
Yeah.
His decision-making tonight was good. I thought his usage was good. I actually would have wanted to see him one more time, and that was when they got the ball at the inside the 5-yard line and went 13 personnel for 3 straight snaps with Jack Cohn in the game. That would have been a perfect time. But other than that, I thought the quarterback usage was good. I thought second half, late the first quarter, they finally opened it up, Vince.
Right.
That shot to Michael Mayer and the shot to Kevin Austin, from that moment on, North Carolina was on its heels the whole game. That was where it's like, where's that been the whole game? Once that happened, it was kind of like, okay, let's see if they do this. And then they came out the second half and they stayed aggressive. And, you know, I was very pleased with what I saw in the second half. So, I mean, what did you think? I mean, first half, Vince, what did you think of what we saw from Tommy Rees?
You know, I agree with you that it was too conservative, but I also don't necessarily mind the keep away mentality as long as you're moving the football and doing what you need to do. And they were getting the ball. You know, they only had 2 possessions the entire game where they had to punt. So, I mean, they were moving the football.
3.
Was it 3?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2. I'm looking at it here.
2.
I'm looking at the drives chart, and I'm looking at the North Carolina side. They received 3 by punt.
Yeah, so they had 2 punts.
First drive.
On the first possession, and then in the second half when he shanked the you-know-what out of the ball. And that was obviously not good. The first punt was, I believe, pretty good. The second one, not so much. But only 2 3-and-outs the entire game by both teams, like total, 1 for each team. Like that by itself is an impressive stat. But yeah, a little conservative, but you know what? I was okay with it. It wasn't quite as up-tempo as maybe I wanted it to be, but I think part of that was because of what they were trying to accomplish and not let North Carolina have the ball.
Which I still don't like, because I feel like because you allow Carolina to stay in the game. Like that's the thing, in which they did. But here's the thing, though. I'll say this, Vince. If you're gonna do that, though, you have to soften them up. Because I mean, let's not. I mean, look, do they get that early touchdown if Kyren Williams doesn't return that punt and give them the ball in Carolina territory, right? I mean, they did catch some breaks with some good field position at times,
sure,
in that game as well. So, but I thought late in the second quarter that helped, and then they came out in the third quarter, and this is when I feel like Tommy Rees has been at his best this year. It's twice now. Notre Dame has gone into halftime and come out, and the opponent starts with the ball and goes right down and scores. It was against Florida State the first time, and that was, I believe, the play where Houston Griffith got beat for the touchdown on the wide fade.
Okay.
Then they come out in this game, and again, that gave Carolina the lead. Same thing this game. Carolina takes their first read on a 53-yard run, and Tommy Rees comes right back out the next series and goes fast. Yeah. They hand the ball off on an RPO. Kyren Williams goes for 14 yards. Next play, they run it again, and he pulls and he throws a quick screen to Lorenzo Styles. Avery Davis barely gets a body on the guy, and Lorenzo just runs, because this is what we've been saying all season long. That's what's so great about RPOs. Get your playmakers the ball in space. Yep. The next play, they go aggressive again, and they go verticals. You and I disagreed during the game about whether or not Michael Mayer was open. I'm curious to see when we go upon further review. We'll talk about that more tomorrow, because I want you to see the replay of it, and I need to go look at it again too.
I just saw it live, and I saw a double move by Mayer, and it looked like he got behind, but
he got behind a guy, but there was a safety over top and a linebacker coming over. Cone takes off, and because the guy that chased is why Cone had that big running lane.
And see,
they came right back and scored. It was aggressive.
Right. It was 3 plays to score. And that's what I didn't see. Because I'm so people understand, I'm watching the receivers, right? And I'm watching. So I don't know if he was pressured or you know what I mean? Like
he did what we've been hoping that he would do all season.
Right.
He drops back. Carolina dropped heavy. He saw the linebacker go over, and he just took off.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I thought the pass pro all night was good. I mean, even on the plays where he was pressured, it was like a late in the play coverage, pressure. But I mean, it opened up, and he took off running. I mean,
right.
And I'm like, are they going to catch him? they're not going to catch him because they were just so slow. They're just so slow. I don't think they realized he was running for a while because they were so shocked by it. But the thing I liked about the play call was it was a vertical call. I mean, you had just gone for a 40-yard gain, and instead of like handing it off again, he went deep ball. It ended up not being a deep ball, but it opened up a running lane because Carolina was just taking off running. I loved that. And then after that, Vince, I mean, it was, the second drive of the second half, they go, they run a counter to Williams with an RPO. He hands it off, goes for 11. Another play that if it's a play I'm thinking of is another play where it wasn't there and then he makes something of it. But then the next play, they run a post route to Lorenzo Styles and that he dropped it.
Yeah. But it was there. It was there.
But it was aggressive. And then later in that drive, and here's something I loved about Tommy Rees, I loved about Jack Cohn. It was the 1st and 10 play after Logan Diggs picked up the 2nd and 1. Yep. They got a huge break on that drive. We can complain about officials missed this, and they did. They had a big miss on the Tariq Bracy non-pick call. But on that 14-yard run by Kyren on that series, Kane Madden held the crap out of a defensive tackle. Held him like we're like he was going along for a ride. Like you ever see like a little kid trying to like walk a big dog and he's like getting dragged. That's what Kane Madden was doing. No call, goes for 14, huge. And then they went back to Styles, but I want people to watch that play because Vince, it's what we've been talking about. And what I've been begging for all year is they kind of motioned into like a wide bunch.
Into the bunch.
And they did post-snap switches. So like Avery goes here, and then the tight end goes out, and then Lorenzo kind of splits them, and he's wide open.
Yep.
But I love that because if you look at the way that play is called, when most coaches call that, they're hoping to get the cross open. The cross was Lorenzo Styles
because they're hoping to clear it out, correct. And then they got something underneath.
The fact that Tommy went right back to Styles on the same drive where he dropped it. Now, yes, Jack needs to get it out there, but that hit him right in the hands.
It hit him in the
fact that he went right back to him, Tommy, and then for Jack Cohn to read it out and throw it to him, I thought was huge. And then Lorenzo makes the play.
Right.
I thought that was huge. Now, they were fortunate. I mean, I don't know if he would have been in the game in a normal circumstance. Let's be honest. I don't know if they'd have yanked him on the drop.
But there's nobody.
Kelly would have yanked him.
There's nobody put in for him.
There's nobody put in.
I mean, you and I might have gotten a call. I mean, there was literally nobody to put in for him.
But Tommy went back to him. Coach Rees went back to him. Sure. I loved that. But that just was kind of another example of just a really aggressive series by the offense. And then the next time they punt, it was the next series you punt because on 1st and 10 you get a flip and fall start by Andrew Kristofik.
Right.
And you have to punt. But the only other time I kind of complained was the last drive. I'd like to see them try to punch that in, but that was the one time I understood the desire to try to maximize taking time off. And just to top the night off for Kyren Williams on that last drive, he's running for another big gain and he hops back inside to stay in bounds.
To make sure he's in bounds.
Make sure the clock runs.
I believe Drew Brees called it a dead leg. Like he dead legged the the sideline and then just goes down. So smart.
Did the old Lee Becton dead leg. Yep.
So smart. Yep. I mean,
that's what I said, man. He's in a zone. He's in a running zone.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt and came back. You know what I mean?
I think that's going to be the part that people don't talk about. He was in the tent twice. After that play, and he comes in and then runs for 91 yards, which was really more like 107 because he went to the right for a while, then he had to come back to the left, and then he started to get in vertical. So, I mean, that was such a great play on so many.
Yes, it was. But that's the thing. I liked Tommy Rees a whole lot better once you got to that last drive, the first half. And I'm not talking about the knee, obviously.
And then moving forward.
Moving forward, I thought Tommy just absolutely coached circles around Phil Longo. I mean, using motion to get them going here and then coming back with runs
we haven't seen in so long. We have not seen that.
It was a really, I mean, the run schemes, it was the most diversity we've seen from a run scheme, and not even just with Tyler Buckner in the game, even with Jack Cohn in the game. We saw more diversity of run concepts, but it was all built around the fact that once you hit a couple early RPOs, especially the big one to Lorenzo Styles, North Carolina's like, okay, what do we do now?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. That's why RPOs are so huge for an offense, Vince.
Agreed. Yep, absolutely agreed. And it's almost like they took a page out of North Carolina, because North Carolina, all they want to do is run RPOs, and Notre Dame did a good job of doing it as well. I mean, it was good, and they left. Don't get me wrong, they left points on the field. They've got to be able to punch those in for touchdowns, right? But I will give credit to John Doerr. He hit every field goal opportunity that he had, and most of them were chip shots. But
those have been exactly. I'm glad you said that, because that's been the nervousness for me in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he hit 2 field goals that were either as long as or shorter than like what my 14-year-old has hit in a game. And it's like, oh God, please hit it. Oh God, please. Like I had no reservations about my kid hitting it, but I had reservations about Jonathan Doerr hitting it.
No question.
And they were right down the middle. I mean, dead center. So you know what? Great job by him, because they needed every one of those points, obviously, to win this game. So
there's a couple super chats I think I missed that are above this one, Vince. So if you get a chance to see those, let me know. But this is from Christopher. If we run this offense all year, Kyren is in New York City. 100%. I mean, 100% agree.
I don't know that he will be, but he
no. He's saying if we. I believe Chris is looking back.
I see.
And saying if they'd have run this offense all year.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because him and Kenneth Walker are the only 2 backs that would like be standing above everybody else.
Right.
100% agree.
Yep.
100% agree with you on that, Chris.
We had one from Zach Martin. Thank you for the super chat. Don't think we hit. It is defensively.
Defense.
Yeah. It says what are the adjustments?
We'll get to that, but we wanted to bring that up. Thank you for that.
So we don't miss it. Just so we don't miss it. Yep.
And then David Kirkpatrick, this is why we do what we do, David, and I'm so glad that you said this. This means a lot. He says, love the show. A new fun element to watching the game is keeping in mind things you guys talked about. First drive, pass creates run, not vice versa. Love it. And then to see the post-snap switches, and then again, this is, I mean, that 40-yard gain, they stole that. That's stealing yards.
Right.
The RPO to style. That's stealing yards. That's the easiest 40 yards you're ever going to have in you know what I mean, as an offense. I love that kind of stuff. D. Beasy, Styles is better than Lindsey. What has it taken so long for him to get more plays? I mean, he's a freshman, and I think here's the thing. He's a better pure receiver than Braden Lindsey, no doubt. The issue that I have, Doy, is that I still feel like Lindsey's not being used correctly. They're using Styles the same way they tried to use Lindsey, and it's working because Lorenzo's a more natural receiver.
Sure. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Braden needs to be used the way he was 2 years ago, which is just using his speed, not asking him to be a great route runner. Right. So I agree with you on that to a degree, like on a certain way, but I think they need to be playing both of them. That would be my counter to that. We had a couple more super chats here real quick, because I want to talk about the skill players and then the line here real quick, Vince.
I'm here. I'm interested to see what you have to say about the line, because I was not really watching the line.
Yeah. Tyrell Wilson, can we get Jordan Patel to play at least 40 snaps a game, please? He had some good moments. I didn't notice him a ton. I know he had a good pass rush late. He had
that big run that they had, he ran right into a block and he could not get off.
Yeah. Now, he was backside on that one, though. Yeah, he was backside on that one, but yeah. But so I got to watch more Tyrell. I didn't focus as much on him in this game. On that particular run, and we'll get to this, they had the entire backup defensive line in there again, which I'll never understand. But Tyrell, thank you very much for that super chat. So, Vince, one of my keys to the game for this game, every game, usually it's either on Friday, sometimes on Saturday, but I did it this week on Friday. I do something, it's come up with my 5 keys to victory, right? And one, I had start fast, which I thought they did. Number 2 was Tommy Reese needs to have a great night. I think we could nitpick whether it was great or not, but it was at least pretty good, I think. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, sorry, I was blocking something. That they started fast?
Keys to the game. Number 1, start fast.
Yeah, right.
Number 2, Tommy Reese needs to have a great night.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We could debate if he was great or not, but he was close.
I thought he had a good game. I thought he was more creative.
Yes, that was the big thing. That's a great point, Vince. He was. This was the most creative game plan he had. I still think he was better last week, but it's like nitpicking between was Kyren better against USC or
And there's some personnel things that I didn't like, but I tend to think that maybe doesn't come from him.
And you and I also tend to be overly critical of those type of things.
True.
Nitpick those type of things. Jack Cohn must be key number 3. Jack Cohn must be on his game. Number 5, situational football must be on point. That was the one thing that they did not do. They weren't great on third down, and their red zone offense wasn't as good as it needed to be, which is why the game was closer. Number 4 was a big one for me, and it was the receivers need to get back on track. And I thought that was a sneaky key to this game is none of the receivers had great games. You had the one drop by Austin where he needs to kind of stretch out a little bit more for that one. And then you had a drop by Avery Davis, but they also all made really good plays. We finally saw Kevin Austin play a back shoulder effectively. That was great to see. They could not cover Avery Davis in the first half. He had 5 catches for 51 yards. His number should have been so much better than that. Mm-hmm. He was open, Vince, the first half all game long.
And you predict every time I saw him, I was like, yeah, Brown is right.
Yeah.
Because you talked about it was going to be a big game for him.
And he had the 15-yard penalty. Like they grabbed his face mask, which he was the chains because he was smoked way
to make sure that he didn't get open, basically.
Yeah. So I felt like they did all the things I needed him to see. Again, nobody had a big night, but like Kevin drops that ball, but then he answers with a and again, what do you have 3 catches in this game, Vince? 2 catches in this game. I'm looking up Kevin Austin's stats real quick. He had 3 catches for 36 yards, 21-yard touchdown, and a huge third down conversion in the fourth quarter.
Yep. He
has the drop, but he bounces back and makes and he drew a pass interference penalty.
I didn't see the replay on that.
It was.
Was it? Okay.
Call.
Okay.
Yeah, because the guy just down the field kind of. It was a bad press release by Kevin, but an even worse press attempt by the corner.
Okay, that's fair.
And Kevin had beat him. Yeah,
it was the perfect pre-snap read, by the way, too, because it was man-to-man across the board. I'm throwing it up to Austin. Yeah. I mean, that's what you should.
It was a horrible ball. It was a horrible ball.
Yes, it was. As soon as you threw it, I was like, oh. And then the flag came out. I was like, okay.
But it was the right read, and by making the right read, and this is what I said earlier, his decision. Tyler wasn't dynamic tonight. He had a couple nice runs, but he wasn't dynamic tonight. But you know what he did? No. He made good decisions, and good things happened. Right. I thought Jack made great decisions all night. He had a couple miss. He was a little short on the throw to Styles, and
he underthrew the throw to Mayer.
Yeah,
that would have been a first down, and he knew it. Like he immediately put his hands on his head. Like he knew that was a bad throw.
Yep. And he also, I thought, on one of the early third downs where they settled for a field goal, he locked in on Mayer. I think if he would have come on, as soon as Mayer got jammed up, he needs to come back to the crossers. He may still have had to scramble, but I think he would have taken a couple steps and then hit Avery Davis coming across. Outside of that, I thought Jack played a really clean game and got the ball where it needed to get to. And I thought Tyler played a clean game, which was good. So I thought the receivers made play. I mean, I said what playmakers need to make plays, right? And tonight they did. And it wasn't just one guy. Lorenzo had a big play. Mayer had a huge play to set up your second half, your late second quarter score, and then had 2 huge blocks on touchdowns.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, which is something we criticized him for much of the season on. We've criticized his blocking.
I thought he did a great job last week. I thought he blocked really
very well
in
space
tonight.
This game. Yeah. Your playmakers made plays, man, and that's what it come down to. Notre Dame won tonight. I thought Tommy called a good game, but at the end of the day, your dudes are just simply better than Carolina's dudes, and they stepped up and made plays.
It showed. Yeah, it showed.
Yeah, Patrick Barnes did a super chat, said Sebo and Tyree not playing running back tonight. Are they in Kelly's doghouse? Kelly made some comment last week about Tyree not answering the bell. Probably. I mean, Kelly says some real petty stuff, and I don't know why Chris Tyree's not playing, and I think it's kind of ridiculous he isn't playing, but I don't want to get into too much of that tonight because I don't know the answer to that. But he was returning kicks, looked fine running, so clearly he's not too injured to play, but, it is what it is. Tim Opal, former Muhlenberg Mule with the super sticker. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Opal. Appreciate that very, very much. So, Vince, let's talk about the offensive line.
I'm interested to see what you have to say here.
You'll have more to say tomorrow when you break it down.
Correct. There was a few times where I kind of noticed them, and I didn't notice them for the right reasons, or for good reasons, I should say. And so I'm interested to hear what you have to say, but I'm really excited to watch the film tomorrow because there was a comment over here in the chat that said, "Oh man, our offensive line is getting so much better." Okay.
Well, compared to where they've been, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
yes, compared to the first few
Right.
games, there's no way they could be worse.
Look, this is what they're playing.
Agreed.
They're playing solid football right
Yes.
now. That's what they did tonight. And look, I thought the pass protection was really good tonight. I thought they did a good job of handling North Carolina's stunts and some of the pressures.
Okay.
I thought that they did a really nice job of moving their feet in pass pro. That's been one of the biggest improvements last 3 weeks is they're moving their feet finally. And so there were times when it was, there were times when like they would start to get beat inside, but they'd keep moving their feet and they'd kind of then beat the guy to the spot and then kind of hold him up. But I was still surprised even tonight, like Carolina wasn't bringing a lot of pressure. And I'm starting to understand why these teams' defenses suck because they just don't scheme well.
Yeah.
Like Jay Bateman, I don't like Jay Bateman. And Tommy Reese got me on points. We put up 36 because our quarterback threw 3 freaking picks when we played Jay Bateman, but we had over 600 yards. Tommy got me on points tonight, but we still got him on yards. But he's such a mediocre to bad play caller and play designer. The stuff I saw tonight was like, you're not even trying to exploit Notre Dame's weaknesses, which is fine. Neither did USC. But when they did, a few times that they did, I thought Notre Dame's kids reacted well to it. The interior guys, like Kane Madden, for example, did a better job this game of looking out, seeing nobody, and then turning back inside to help Jarrett.
And remember, that's all
Right.
I asked for. That's all I wanted him to do.
Which is something we hammered him for last week.
Okay.
I thought the tackles were very, very good in pass pro for the most part. When they did get beat, they got beat wide, so they weren't oversetting to give up the spin moves inside. So when they'd get beat wide, and then they would just take them and ride them out. So pass pro was good. Run game was average to bad for the first 3 quarters of the game. They got no movement. I mean, it's like they had to go like 3-4 plays to get 2 yards and get into the end zone. I mean, it was no movement, no push. They play with there's still too much catching in the run game. But a couple things. Number one, they were assignment correct all night long. 3 things, actually. Number 2, I thought they did a much better job on the timing of their combo blocks. They're getting better and better about that. So, like 2 guys working together and then 1 guy coming off, but not coming off too early or too late. Part of that was North Carolina's linebackers were really passive when they weren't against the run. Part of that because I think they were concerned about the ball coming out and getting outside. And then late in the game, when the game was on the line and Carolina was tired, the O-line stepped up and just punished them on that last drive. That was an old school Notre Dame final drive. Now, of course, they couldn't finish it off and put it in the end zone,
which was frustrating.
Right? Which is a current Notre Dame offensive line issue. But when North Carolina wore down and they needed to take some clock off, they pushed. They got movement. And then, of course, the thing that I also thought is Kane Madden was pretty bad in the first half. He has that block on the 3rd quarter where he should have got called for a holding. But after that, Vince, he played the best stretch of football of his Notre Dame career. Now, it wasn't great, but he was good. He was something like he was playing with a little bit more. He was playing with the edge in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Kane started playing with the edge that we've seen him play with at Marshall, where he was never athletic. He was never very talented, but we always said he played hard and he was fundamentally sound. He was much better in those 2 regards in the second half. His fundamentals are still but he played really hard. And he was getting to the second level. There was one particular run near the goal line where they snapped the ball at like the 7 or 8 yard line. He hit a linebacker like the 3 or 4 yard line and just drove him into the end zone. Right? I mean, that's what you bring Kane Madden here for. Now, do I think that they should consider someone else? Yes, because he was bad in the first half. But my hope is that this is sort of a light win on moment for Kane. Because if Kane Madden can play the next 4 games like he did the last quarter and a half of this game, that's what you brought him here for. Right? I'm curious to watch, for you to watch the game and see if you come back, because I know you're very hard on Kane. But I just thought what ticked me off was just the sloppiness, the penalties, the silly, that stuff. But they
2 offensive line
competed,
penalties, right?
and they gave their running back a chance to be special. And that's look.
Well, and remember, all
I
we
can't
asked for is
hammer
for
them
them
when
to
they
be
do
average.
hey, give your quarterback
That's
time to
right.
ball
Yeah.
and just keep a body on a body and play hard.
Yeah,
They
you're
played
right.
hard. They gave Cone time, and they got a body on a body. And Kyren went off.
Yeah.
And that's all I can ask for, Vince. I mean, that's all I can ask for. And so
I can ask for more, but I'm not going to expect more.
With this group, with that coach.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
That's my point.
Absolutely. You're right. Absolutely.
That's my point. And, you know, you did to a bad defense what a team with Notre Dame's talent is supposed to do to a bad defense, and that is, you know, now, again, they did all that with poor red zone performance,
Very,
you know, sloppy penalties that killed drive, and they still had over 500 some yards and still had 44 points and got a W. So overall, I have to say I was pleased.
And they were all offensive points too, which,
yeah,
I mean, the defense got them into the red zone on that pick, right, by DJ Brown, or close to it.
And they settled for a field goal.
And they settled
then
for a field
the punt
goal.
return got them a short field, or but they did what they were supposed to do with that short field.
Correct.
You know?
Yes, absolutely.
I love this. K. Grant. Oh, in Michigan.
Well, because he
oh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. You got to
thank you for the 2 super chats, K. Grant. Yes. Driving home from the game, wanted to jump in and say hi. Can't wait to listen to the podcast tomorrow, guys. Go Irish. And then he said, oh, in Michigan. Love it.
Fantastic.
This made the day so much better.
Which is fantastic. David had another super chat that I just want to make sure we say, and we'll talk about it when we get to the defensive side.
Yeah, because actually, let's hold off on that because I think we're about to transition. No, I'm gonna be right there.
Okay.
So, perfect. Vince, you have anything else you want to add about the offense? I've done a lot of the talking tonight. So,
no.
Anything else you want to add?
It's been great. I appreciate you process things live better than I do. Like, I need to go back and watch the film to really have some hard, opinions. But as we were moving through it, my issues tonight were just some personnel issues. When things were moving really well with 11 personnel going to 13 and 12. I think at one point they went to 14 personnel. A couple times, actually. When they do that wing, the double wing, that's 14 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It ended up working. I mean, Tyree ended up going up and over to make it happen, but I wasn't convinced that it was going to happen, on that touchdown. But yes, I thought Tommy Rees was his most creative, and that's what I appreciated the most out of this game. I thought that I would have liked to see a little bit more tempo from them. It wasn't as much as I was hoping for, to be honest with you, but it wasn't bad. And there was a couple of times, and I wrote it down as we went, and I can't remember exactly where it was, where I did not like them bringing in Tyler Buckner.
Okay.
It was just some weird moments. And there was one time they brought him in on first down, and then they immediately took him out on second down.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is keep that note, and that'll be a great thing for us to discuss tomorrow.
Perfect. Yeah, I wrote it down. I
perfect
just can't
upon
find
further review thing. And then you and I can discuss it during the day, and we can kind of be prepared to talk about it. So anything else, anybody else stand out that you saw that we didn't bring up?
No, we pretty much covered everybody that I was impressed with. I mean, that stood out to me in a positive way for sure.
So let's get to the Notre Dame defense, Vince. This was a strange game.
It was a strange first half, period.
Yeah.
And then the defense just made it even stranger.
I had people like losing their minds in the first half. This defense sucks. And I'm like, they gave up 13 points.
Right.
They're on pace to hold them a touchdown, 10 points below their season average. Now, again, of course, second half, they gave up more. But it was a strange game. There were some things I liked, a lot of things I didn't like. David Kirkpatrick with a super chat. How much of the tackling is Marcus Freeman starting from scratch with this group? Is that a simple adjustment in preparation or something hard to fix? I think this late in the season, when it's been as consistently bad as it is, I don't know if it can be fixed, because I don't know if they're pushing the right buttons to fix it. Now, part of it is North Carolina has really good players. Part of it at times is a lack of discipline and guys not wrapping up. Because if the tackling is – here's the thing I'll say. Let's kind of to get into the conversation. Then we had something from Zach. Do you still have that super chat from Zach up there?
No.
Zach had asking about the defense. To me, I'll say this. I had no problem with the game plan. I think because like what's happening is we're seeing some people say like the 3-man front. Some of these comments. From Joe says 3-man fronts don't work well against strong offenses. It's absolutely wrong because facing strong offenses week after week is exactly why Marcus Freeman and Luke Fickell came up with their 3-3-5 defense.
Right.
Notre Dame's problem is not that they use a 3-man front. It's that I don't like the personnel that they put on the field on 3-man fronts, and I don't think they're aggressive enough out of that. But tonight, I actually didn't. I could change my mind tomorrow after I break down the film. But watching live, I thought they were more aggressive out of their 3-man fronts, bringing Foskey a lot more, bringing him downhill more, being more aggressive with some of those things that they were doing in that regards. I don't think that I didn't have a problem with the game plan. I had a problem with the execution of the game plan and some of the players they had on the field. That's what I had a problem with. I thought that was a much bigger issue than 3-man. Because here's the thing, right? So people don't like the 3-man front. So now when anything ever goes wrong and they were in a 3-man front, it's because they were in a 3-man front. Right. Now, there were times I didn't like it. I thought with over a minute left and they got the ball near midfield because of a terrible kick coverage, that was not the right time to be in sort of a soft defense. And I don't know why he does that late in halves. I don't like it. Late in the game, I understood that last one because they got to score twice. What you don't want to let them do is go for 60, where there's enough time for them to get an onside kick and maybe still do something. But the one at the end of the first half, I hated that because then you let them just run 3 times for 31 yards.
Right.
That was great play calling by Phil Longo.
Yeah.
To see that Notre Dame was playing passive. But the 3-man front also, there were some things I liked for the most part out of that. The problem is you had some poor execution at times. And to me, there's 2 areas that 3 areas, the tackling was just brutal.
It was bad.
And it was all 3 levels.
And let's be honest, the tackling is the problem. It's not the 3 front. Okay. There were guys in position to make plays. Mm-hmm. They didn't make them. I mean, bottom line, they didn't make them. So that has nothing to do with how many guys have their hand in the dirt. Okay. It was the fact that the tackling wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
That's my bigger issue. I don't care if you put 2 down or 5 down. If you're not going to tackle, it doesn't matter. So that's more my issue. The tackling, they were very passive in their tackling. The touchdown that Sam Howell had, the guys were more worried about running into each other than they were about tackling the quarterback.
Right.
And that's a problem. There's no aggressiveness to the tackling.
Right. I think a couple things. This was the question that Zach sent earlier. Thank you, Zach, for sending that in. And then not doing it with a super chat.
Yeah. You're the man, Zach.
So, to me, Zach, Vince kind of talked about one of it. One was poor angles. I mean, they just took poor angles in football.
All night.
Too many times I thought they just ran into blocks. Like on the 53-yard touchdown, that was some of the worst linebacker run fits I've seen. And we'll get into the play of the linebackers tonight. But I think part of it too is I just don't think they attack the ball aggressively, Vince. Like they get close to the ball carrier, and I don't know if like they're so afraid of getting called for targeting that they just kind of come up short. Like I'm watching the Michigan State game, and I'm seeing these defenses just smash each other the whole game. And I said to a friend, Notre Dame is far more athletic than either of these 2 teams, but they're not nearly as physical on either side of the ball. Now, there's a couple guys on offense that are pretty freaking physical guys. Kyren and Michael Mayer, top of that list. But overall, defensively, there's no one that Michigan or Michigan State has that's the physical freak that Isaiah Foskey is. Aiden Hutchinson is a great player, but he's not the physical freak Foskey is, right?
He doesn't hold a candle to Foskey in that regard, no.
And the linebackers, I think Drew White and J.D. Bertrand are better athletes than those guys, but they're just not physical at the ball. And a buddy of mine and I were debating this even before tonight's game happened. And I think that's an issue that I have is they just don't attack aggressive enough. It's like they're late reacting to things, right? And what that does is they're getting to the ball carriers when those guys are kind of squared up or getting downhill. I think the other thing too is until they can clean up some stuff up front, because I think there's too many times where the defensive line kind of runs past the quarterback. I thought that was an issue tonight. And it allowed Sam Howell to step into the pocket and take off running. I thought that was an issue for me tonight. I think that other times you just had guys flat out miss tackles. I mean, Kurt Heinisch had him squared up. Jason Adamiola missed them.
Yeah.
There were too many times the defensive line just had a chance to make. And look, part of it too is Sam Howell played his butt off tonight.
Yes, he did. And,
I mean,
and Brian Kelly
there's
talked
5
about
or
that
6
in
of those runs
press
where you just kind of got to
conference.
tip your hat to the kid. He played a great game, but there was
He did.
also plenty of times where it was like, that was such bad tackling. And to me and there were so many times the safeties did just like, and I think that I wonder is they know Hamilton's out and there's nobody else. Was there a concern about coming up and laying the wood, maybe getting called for targeting? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
that's part of what I need to see, and think about, because the safeties just weren't like the one long touchdown run he had. Houston Griffith standing there at like the 5 to 8 yard line, and he just kind of waits on the guy to come block him.
Right.
Like, what?
What are you doing?
And then DJ Brown took a terrible angle on the 53-yard touchdown run. Just terrible angle. Yet JD Bertrand, had missed at least 3 or 4 tackles tonight. Well, that was, to me, one of the two biggest issues that they had personnel-wise tonight, Vince. I thought Tariq Bracy had a solid game.
Yeah.
The 41-yard gain where he got beat, that's a freaking penalty. They picked him.
And it was
how are you supposed to run with Josh Downs when the tight end can bang you like that? That's a penalty.
He squared him up. Like,
yeah, it wasn't like a rub. You just flat squared the dude up, and if that's not a penalty, I don't know what is.
Right, exactly.
To me, it's just like, so to me, I thought he did okay on the tunnel screen. He's got to do a better job of running around that block, but that's not on him. He's not supposed to make that play. He's got to do a better job of going over top or underneath, one of the two. He can't just run into that block. That was a blown coverage by Drew White and the safety, Isaiah Pryor. They just didn't see it, didn't sniff out the tunnel screen at all. Drew White was to that side. He doesn't see that lineman going out. He just sniffed it. And Ramon Henderson's awful. I hate to say that about a kid. It's not personal. As a football player, he's just not good. I get it. He's fast and he's just not a football player. He looks so awkward playing football. And they ran that pump and go on him, and it's like he had no concept of what to do. None. North Carolina runs that play all the time. That was not a trick play. That's a part of who they are.
Yeah.
That's just what they do.
Yeah.
He had no clue what was happening on that play.
Where they pump the screen and then just go deep. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's on the 30. It was the long touchdown pass.
Houston Griffith it wasn't Houston Griffith. It was Cam Hart. Cam Hart was so upset after that. He looked over at Ramon. He's like, dude, what are you doing?
So, to your point about the QB contained, I think that they need to, because here's the double-edged sword you're in, Vince, in those situations is if you're too passive, Sam Howell sits back and picks you apart.
Sure. If
you're too aggressive, then he's gonna do what he did tonight.
And
I think one of the things they need to consider doing is out of the 3-man fronts is doing more line games,
right?
Which then kind of bring you into the middle, because where he's hurting you is when he's kind of stepping up and in. The times he beat them, the times he beat them outside weren't contain issues; they were poor tackling. The contain issues were when he was just cutting up the middle, where like they were missing and there was just pass rush lanes coming open. I think one thing that you can do is, in those instances, Vince, is to maybe do some more line games instead of just straight up pass rushes,
right?
Where they're just able to kind of double team the nose and then he just takes off.
Right.
I think another answer is more 4-man fronts with this personnel. 3-man fronts work good, and they really work good when you've got Jalen Sneed and Josh Burnham and Nolan Ziegler and hopefully Drake Bowen and Sonny Styles. Hopefully,
what they're recruiting to. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But you can't run that with this personnel. You just can't because Drew White and JD Bertrand just aren't dynamic enough to be effective consistently against the better offenses. They could against Wisconsin and Toledo and Purdue, but now you're playing some of these up-tempo offenses and they're getting them in space and they're taking advantage of their lack of length, and they've lost their aggressiveness in the run game because they're playing teams that now RPO them. Right. Sure. This is one of the things that's great about an RPO. A guy like JD Bertrand that was so good at the beginning of the year is having some problems now because now those RPOs are kind of getting him in a, I don't want to come, but then I do want to come hard. Right. But
it puts him in conflict, and that's what an RPO is supposed to do.
And then he ends up just running into blocks.
Right.
And at first I was I didn't think they should have called that penalty on him, but then you watch the play and he kind of comes down with a club and you're just like, dude, what are you doing? You just got a questionable roughing the passer last week. You come down, you see the ball's gone, just bring your arm straight down. You don't got to come through with the club. That's another play. See, there was 2 times in this game where 3 times in this game where Notre Dame was ready to get off the field.
Right.
And you had a stupid mistake that gave them, I mean, you had Cam Hart had a blown coverage. I'm going to have to go through my notes again. There was another one, and then you had the one on JD Bertrand. And it's just like, what? Like, as a coach, you're like, what? Well, we've got the perfect call in, we make a stop, and then you do something stupid.
Right.
That happened way too much tonight. Like, that's the thing I'm going to be frustrated by Marcus Freeman is I'm not going to question so much my calls, but, like, what did I do to make – what did we do wrong in our preparation that made these guys play so unfundamentally sound, which is not something they've done for much of the year. Like, what did I do what did we miss in our preparation besides just the fact this is a really good offense that led to some of the silly mistakes?
And I will say that Brian Kelly over and over again in his post-game press conference, I don't know if you were listening to it or not, but he basically said, this was not our best effort defensively, obviously, he said. And he said, we need to coach these guys better. He's like, we did not do a good enough job to get these guys ready. And so he actually put it on himself and the coaching staff, which I was a little bit surprised about, but he took it. And, that's great. But, obviously I want to see them get better.
I'm going to interrupt you, Vince, and I know people hate that, but
I don't care.
Why has he never taken that forceful of a post-game stance about the offense?
Right.
That's like –
because the offense is him.
I have no problem with him hammering the defense after this game. None.
Right.
But we've heard him make excuse after excuse when the offense played way worse than what the defense played tonight. And that's the thing that drives me freaking nuts.
Right.
But, he's right. They did not do the game plan, I thought, for the most part, was good. The execution of it was poor. Yeah. That's also coaching. I mean, it is. I mean, it's your job as a coach not just come with a game plan, but then to prepare your guys to execute it at a high level. And I don't think they did that tonight.
It's great to have a recipe for, something that you're making, but if you can't execute the recipe, it's not going to be edible. I mean, it's the same thing. You have to be able to execute it in order for the plan and on defense to work. And
I think the final thing for me, and we got a couple super chats I want to get here. The final thing for me with the defense, Vince, is I do think that he needs to consider playing more zone with the current personnel.
Yeah.
Because that's another way you can kind of keep things in front of you is because when you play man, you get your backs turned, and when that guy takes off, people just don't see it.
Right.
Again, you either need to do one or two play. I mean, Ryan Barnes and Philip Riley can't be this bad that they can't play Ramon Henderson.
They completely agree with that.
They can't be. And I'm sorry, you've got to get more. Isaiah Pryor has a great role in this defense. It's not as a back end safety,
right?
It's not.
And there were times where they had 3 or 4 down. I think it was 3 down. They had Bo Bauer in, right, and the rest were all corners and safeties. And one of which was Ramon Henderson, and one of which was Isaiah Pryor. And I just remember thinking to myself, I don't know that this is a great personnel grouping to have out on the field. And I don't remember what the result of the next play was, but I just remember seeing that he was the only linebacker and that it was 3 down. And it was like, I just feel like there's other guys you could go to.
Yeah. Linebacker play. I thought early in the game, I was very pleased with I thought Bo Bauer had made it. It was a great play on that wheel call.
It was.
And he did 2 things well.
Bo Bauer that did it.
He did 3. He executed that as fundamentally well as you can. 3 ways. Number 1, he recognized the wheel route immediately and ran with it. Number 2, he took a level to upfield angle instead of a downhill angle. If he takes a downhill angle, then has to reroute, Ty Chandler smokes him.
Yep.
He takes a level and then climbs, gets right with him, and instead of looking back to the ball, which everyone thinks you should always do when you're trailing, which you should rarely do in that situation, he played the running back's hands. And as soon as the running back shot his hands out, Bo shot his hands out and broke up the pass. Tremendous play. After that, the linebacker play was borderline. I don't even say borderline. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. I mean, they like the tunnel screen. There was nobody had any clue. There was another play later that I believe
The
it was
big one
Bo.
that Downs had.
That
tunnel
I mean, just
screen
nobody had a clue.
Bracey
Bracey's the only guy in the
blocked.
field that knew that they were running that. I mean,
he got blocked. I mean,
right.
That wasn't illegal.
He's got to play it better, right? He's got to play it better. But that's I mean, that's a play that North Carolina runs. Drew White's got to sniff that out. They ran a tight end. They ran an RPO where the tight end sneaks out, and just Bo just missed him. Just didn't see him. And and then you look at what they did in the run game. I'm really curious to go back and count the missed tackles by the linebackers. And Drew White, who had been playing really well coming into this game, really struggled, in my opinion, this game. They were having such a hard time reading what Sam Howell was going to do. They couldn't tell halftime he was handing off or throwing, which is again why RPOs are difficult to defend, and speaks to how well Sam Howell played in this game.
He played. I thought that he played way better than I even thought that he would play in this game. We
praised him coming into the game. I mean, we said this kid's a much better player this year than he was last year.
He was better than he's played. This might have been his best game of the year, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, he
all around, yeah.
Look, he
had the horrible pick. That one. I mean, part of that was a great play by DJ, and you got some pressure on him. But other than the pick, which was a big one. I mean, it's like other than that game-changing interception.
Look, but part of it I think was down. He didn't even turn around. Like there was obviously a miscommunication there. Yeah. So I don't put it all on Sam Howell, but at the same time, that was tough.
Yeah.
But I mean, he accounted for 442 yards by himself.
Yeah.
442 out of the 564. So that's a pretty good day. You know what I mean? Like I was impressed. I was.
He was really good. But see, that's the thing is the margin for error for a team like North Carolina against a team like Notre Dame is super thin.
Absolutely.
And
you can have a game like that.
Notre Dame just has way better players.
Yeah.
And they gave up the two big plays early. I thought they did a good job. Here's the one thing I think they did in the second half. The second half was it was literally the one play by Ty Chandler, and then it was Sam Howell. I mean, he put that off. I mean, I thought they did a good job in the second half of making adjustments to keep Josh Downs from Josh Downs didn't do a ton in the second half from what I remember. His two big plays were in the first half.
Right.
I thought they did a pretty good job after that of keeping him in check. And the only other time you got beat was just a terrible play by Ramon Henderson, just terrible.
Yeah, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 7 catches in the second half.
Who did?
Josh Downs.
Yeah, but they weren't the same with Drake London. They weren't game-changing plays. No. That's the point.
Completely agree with you. He had 7 of his 10 catches in the second half. I believe he had 10.
How many yards?
Now you're going to have to ask me to add.
Because he had 10 catches for 142 yards.
5, 31.
At least 72 of those were on 2 plays in the first half.
57. 7 catches for 57 yards.
There you go. That's so I thought they made good adjustments there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Coach Kelly is correct. They did not do a good job of preparing this team to play in a lot of ways, but they still made plays when they needed to.
They've had a good plan against the number 1 receiver, the 3 most dynamic receivers that Notre Dame has played this year. Mm-hmm. The Bell from Purdue, London from USC, and Downs from from UNC.
Mm-hmm.
They got their stats right, but they weren't game-changing stats.
And the biggest game-changing play that Josh Downs made in this game was an illegal pick that should have called. I mean, I don't know what right. I mean, so
Bracey might as well have been tackled on that game, on that play,
right? Because once you get, and the reason we're saying that is because yes, he was hit once, and then the guy let him go. But when you're defending Josh Downs, that's all you need. That's all you need.
He had a 5-yard cushion because of that.
Yeah. I mean, and he read the play. I mean, he read the wheel route. He was ready to go run with it. And then bam, that happens. So,
exactly.
But other than that, I thought they had again, you're going to see the stats but look, it's not about in an offense like this, it's not about numbers.
Right.
It's about, I don't care about the numbers, game-changing plays. And in the second half, they didn't give those up. Now, they gave up some other game-changing plays, but those are execution issues, not schematic issues.
Right.
And that's honestly what made the defensive performance so frustrating, because I thought it's like you've got the call where you need it to be. You've got the right call. It's just not being executed well. And
Right.
we've criticized like when the offensive staff, when they didn't execute well on offense, we say, hey, that's part of the job of a coaching staff, is to not just call plays, but to get them to execute well. And the same thing is true on defense.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, but again, I think the issue I have is I think we'll talk more about it tomorrow, but I think people are now ready to kind of throw Marcus Freeman to the side, and that's an unwise thing. It was a bad game. It happens against a really good offense. It happens.
We can have the big picture Marcus Freeman conversation at some point, because I do have plenty to talk about there, but probably not in the manner that you think that I'm going to go. And I would love to have that conversation at some point. And that's probably a December show. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about the future of Marcus Freeman, et cetera, based on preseason expectations. But look, he's still doing a good job. He's still getting to know his players. And look, he's a little bit stubborn, to be honest with you. He's a little bit stubborn with the fact that he wants to run his stuff regardless of who's there. I think he needs to break that tendency a little bit, but I think that's honestly what it is. He's like, look, I've got a great scheme here. I'm going to run it. And at times it just doesn't work with the personnel that they have.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
you want to hit some of these super chats here real quick?
I was getting ready to start. I think we got Anthony here.
Yes, that's
the first one I have. Indy gets circled in every. Thank you, Anthony, for super chat. Indy gets circled in every opponent's schedule. 7-1 is 7-1. This team has grit and finds a way. Go Irish. We'll somewhat disagree with that, but not spend a lot of time on it. 7-1 isn't 7-1 because there's always degrees to how you're playing. Notre Dame is 7-1 against a bunch of mediocre to bad teams. They are out-towning people every week.
Yeah.
Now, my hope is that moving forward, the defense can play like it has most of the year, right? And the offense can
continue to
grow.
Right.
Because if that happens, because again, guys, people have bad weeks, right? Do you remember what Clark Lee's defense looked like in 2009 against Michigan? Not a very good Michigan team, right? People have bad days,
right?
Okay, Clark Lee had a couple of them. Mike Elko had a couple of them. Barry Alvarez had some, right, in his short period of time. So that stuff's going to happen. The key now is for Coach Freeman and his staff is saying, okay, look, we just came off keeping USC at their lowest total in 2 years. We didn't execute. We didn't do what we needed to do. We got to clean that stuff up. It happens. And you're going to get a week to defend the triple option.
Yeah.
And then I hope they don't play Kyle Hamilton. We'll talk about it on Monday. But, you get back on track, right? And, they'll be fine.
And look, Marcus Freeman comes from the same league, the same conference that Navy was in. So,
yeah. Now, what's funny is I don't think he ever coached against Navy.
Really?
Yeah, because they're in opposite divisions. I was looking at that the other day. Now, they played Army last year.
Okay, that's similar. But
they did not play Navy last year.
Huh? I didn't realize that.
Did not play Navy in 2019. Did not play Navy in 2018. Oh, they did play Navy in 2018, and they won 42-0.
Okay.
So he did play against Navy once, and they held Navy to 171 yards of total offense. 124 rushing yards. Navy had that game.
Good Lord.
So, yes, Marcus Freeman has coached against the triple option a couple times. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he had a bad game. I mean, and I think he'll be the first one to tell you he had a bad game.
Right.
Now the key is, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Zach Martin with a super chat. I think Maris is a much bigger loss than we think with his speed and athleticism the other linebackers don't have. He seems like a Freeman type of guy. You're 100% right. I think there were games this year early that they were better off having JD.
Sure.
I think of Wisconsin. I think of Purdue, Toledo, right? This second half of the year is when they're missing Marist. Now that they're playing more teams that can spread and run, because he was fast, I was going to say, and he was
JD
long.
JD will be better against Navy.
Yes.
It would have been a JD game if they were both available. Navy.
Right.
Right. I mean,
Right.
that's how I see that one going. But
Yep.
Moving forward, I agree with you.
Yep. And that's why I'm kind of looking forward to next year when I think JD is going to be at Mike, and him and Bo Bauer will be playing Mike, and then you'll have Maris at Will. Will. I want to say Buck. Josh Phillips with the super chat. First home game I attended in 14 years. Glad I went. Wasn't expecting a shootout, but glad for the win. And Kyren looked good again. I'll bet you that was a fun experience. Because if you haven't been to a home game in 14 years, it looks way different at Notre Dame than it did the last time you were here for a game.
I mean, and not just the stadium, like everything around the stadium. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when there was a road that went through the middle of campus, and obviously that's long gone. You know, I mean, they have changed the footprint of this campus so much in the last 15 to 20 years. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
And it's unrecognizable.
It really is. Even from 2010 when Kelly first got here in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But thank you for that super chat, Josh. And I'm glad you enjoyed the game. Safe travels heading home. Let's get to some more of these super chats here, Vince. I'm going to hopefully don't lose any.
I have lost them. So I tried to hold, because I stayed up with that one. And then,
Waddy, thank you for the super chat there, Waddy. Can't believe my first ever game at Notre Dame Stadium, I got to witness that run by Kyren. Thanks for what you guys do. That's a pretty cool deal. Like, you got to see a night game, high scoring, fun game. Kyren has one of the best runs. I mean, we didn't kind of talk about that. Like, to me, that was one of the best runs that we've ever seen from an back. I mean, just because of the degree of difficulty. This wasn't like the counter play where CJ went for 91 against Georgia Tech in 2015, right? Where they just, Q kicks out and Stanley wraps, and it's just, boom, Red gone. Sea parts, and bam. It wasn't like the Josh Adams 98-yard run against Wake, or the long runs he had in 2017 where he never got touched. This was the O-line accounted for -3 and Kyren accounted for 94, really, because he got hit like 3 yards. I mean, I literally thought he was going to get I mean, they had 3 guys hit him behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, unbelievable. Right. Unbelievable. It was really impressive.
And there were so many aspects of that run that made it so cool. I mean, it was the Michael Mayer block. It was the getting in the way of by Davis, without throwing that behind, that blindside block. There were just so many elements of that I was dumbfounded as I was watching it live. I was like, okay, he's going to get a nice little gain here around the outside. Oh, he's going to get a little bit. Oh my goodness.
He's gone.
Score. Yeah. Because those other ones that you talked about, as soon as it hit, it's like gone. I mean, you just knew that they were gone. Right. And the excitement was gone out of that. But this was a heck of a play on so many levels, and it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it was. And just the energy with which that kid plays the game of football.
Yes.
Is really just, I mean, enjoy it, folks. I know some of you were like a couple weeks ago, hey, do you think he's going to stay? Nope. I mean, he was really, really good.
But I will say this. Tyree and Diggs is going to be one heck of a 1-2 punch. I mean, we've gotten to see a little bit of a preview of what,
assuming that they can keep everyone here.
Granted, but I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. We did. If we missed any of your super chats, we've kind of gotten through them. If we missed your super chat, just put missed in all caps and then write it after that. Don't do another super chat unless you just want to give us more money, but you don't have to do another super chat. I was kind of kidding about that. And then we'll try to get to those, but I did want to get some other, just a few of these. Special teams. Okay. This is go ahead, Vince. Just go. Yep.
The shanked punt, I didn't like, obviously, but you kind of, I almost feel like with Jay, you're going to get like 4 great punts, and
occasionally
he's going to have a terrible one. I mean, and so okay, fine. And when you're only going out on the field 1 to 2 plays a game, like, I get that too. You know what I mean? Not saying I want to see a lot of punts, but it's kind of so I don't have an issue with that. I walked by my buddy Sean Stiers, and I said at one point in the game, I was like, wow, coverage teams have actually been really good. And then, of course, they let that one, kickoff return go back. And
I 2 like that tonight.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's right.
There's one in the second half.
And so I was like, I was actually really impressed because I thought North Carolina was stupid for taking the ball out of the end zone a few times, and Notre Dame made them pay. But then they had the one that, so you can't do that. You can't give up those 2 plays because everything else was great, but you can't give up those 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at on the coverage teams. It just but again, big props to John Doerr for hitting all 3 of his field goal opportunities because they needed every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give the special teams unit as a whole like a B.
Yeah. I'd probably go B- just because whenever your special teams results in a score for the other team, that's a big negative for me. And if you do a normal coverage there, and even if you just pin them at the 25, they can't run the ball 3 straight times. And now all of a sudden your softer defense, you're in a good position.
Right.
And so to me, just, and then you had did the short punt lead to a score? Can you check your notes for that?
Yeah, I'm looking. Punt, bad. Defense. No, that's when they pooch punted after that.
Okay, so the defense held. Okay, well, that's a positive for the defense. It was one of those, we talked about that. They had some stops in the second half.
Because they got the ball on the 40-yard line,
right.
the minus 40, and they made it to about the plus 45, 46-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
About the plus 46. So, and then they pooched it.
Right.
Yep.
So, when I look at events, that's just, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm trying to see if we have more of these. I do want to say this real quick. Matt D said Lorenzo Styles Jr. is going to be a threat to every team in 2022. His speed is ridiculous. Look, Deion Colsey had another kind of just mental brain freeze again because he's clearly not being prepared the way that he needs to.
Yeah.
Lorenzo's such a more experienced, savvy player. But this experience for those 2 kids is going to be huge for them for next year. And that's, like Logan Diggs and we're going to talk about the freshmen, and I'm glad. I mean, again, they're being thrust into because of injuries, but I don't care. They're playing, and they're getting opportunities, and they're making
whatever
plays.
the reason they're still playing, and that's all we wanted. That's all we wanted.
So I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that if you can continue to have those opportunities. So for me, there's a lot of good coming out of tonight, right?
Yes,
there was.
absolutely.
And there's a lot. See, to me, nights like tonight were nights I liked it. Look, my favorite nights as a coach is when we just came out and dominated in all facets of the game, right? There's nothing better than that. And I don't care who we played. I don't care how bad the team was. The other nights that I liked as a coach were those when you didn't either coach well or execute well, but your kids battled, made plays when you needed to, showed as a word that we've heard a lot tonight that Brian Kelly likes to use, which is very appropriate for tonight. Showed a lot of grit.
Yeah.
Kyren's down, comes back in. He's in the 10 a couple times, comes back. Foskey goes down, clearly a lot of pain, comes back in. And I don't know why they would ever want to not have him rush the quarterback. Like, I don't understand that. Like, have him rush the freaking quarterback. Right. Always. He had a nice run stop too in this game. I thought the run defense in the first half I thought was pretty good on the running backs. The run defense in the second half wasn't as good. Well, up until the last drive of the first half, I thought the line was getting really good penetration. North Carolina could not block Notre Dame. When Notre Dame,
Agreed.
When they ran at them, the defensive line to me played well. The one long touchdown run, you literally had the entire backup defensive line in the game. I think all those kids can play and should play and do a nice job. Howard Cross had a huge play tonight. Nana had a sack tonight. Riley Mills had a couple nice plays. Jordan Patel had a big night, but I don't want them all on the field together because look what happened, right?
Yeah, right.
Now, they weren't the primary reason, but they didn't make a play either. The linebackers did a poor job, and DJ took a terrible angle. And DJ, you saw on that play, he has no speed. And you saw that on that touchdown run. I mean, he has to take the perfect angles and be in perfect position. And he did a great job reading that interception. I mean, great job. And the other thing, too, we can't dismiss the fact that not having Kyle Hamilton showed up tonight.
Sure.
I mean, some of the plays they make, like the 53-yard touchdown run does not happen if Kyle Hamilton's in the game. I don't think it does. And there was a couple other plays where I'm like, if like the tunnel screen, Kyle's such a smart player. I think he would have
that. Yeah, I
maybe
agree.
it goes for 10 or 15 yards, but it doesn't go for
not for
40.
what it did. Yeah.
No, the 31. It went for 31. So that hurt them tonight. It did. But they knew that, and they did a good job. I think one thing they did is, I think the safeties, from what I could tell, Vince, this is the last thing. I thought the safeties held their own for the most part in this game. I thought coming up on some run stops, I was frustrated by that. We talked about, but I thought in coverage, I thought the safeties did a really nice job of staying on top and taking away. There were several times where Sam Howell ran, but he ran because he wanted to go deep, and they took it away.
Right. And there were several times where the safety was over the top of downs. And I said something to you about what it looked like their plan was. And then, of course, the very next play, they switched it up and did something different. But it always appeared that there was kind of a safety over downs and kind of over in his area. And they did a good job of preventing him from breaking anything deep. And the only way, there was two ways that he got big plays, right? It was the tunnel screen, and we talked about that, and it was the illegal pick. Like, that was those are his two big plays, And other than that, I thought Notre Dame did a good job of keeping him in front and tackling.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I thought Notre Dame tackled in space better tonight than they have.
Really?
At time. Like, but when it comes to downs, like, I thought they did when they were there to make the play, they made the play. There were times where they weren't there to make the play, and that's different to me, right? I thought that they came down on him pretty well tonight. But again, there were times where they weren't even around to make the play, and that's a different conversation.
Yeah. Any other comments, any other thoughts, any other analysis from tonight's game, Vince, that you want to discuss before? And again, tomorrow night, we'll be back tomorrow night with our Upon Further Review. If you had asked a super chat that we did not answer, please give it to us, because we want to get that in. We're kind of stalling a little bit because we want to make sure we don't miss some of y'all. But look, tonight was a good step for the offense. If they can continue this, and I'd still like to see them be a little bit more aggressive throwing the ball down the field.
Sure, but they were more creative today, and they got more guys involved in the manner in which they got him.
That's something we didn't mention, Vince. That's a great point. I thought that's one thing that we did not talk about. Jack did a phenomenal job tonight of just making the read and getting the ball where needed. There was that one play early that he locked in on Mayer that I talked about, but other than that, he went where the read told him to go.
Yeah, I thought Jack played a good game. I thought that he's really coming into his own. I think he's really starting to put this offense on his back. I did not like some of the times that they brought Buckner in, but some of the times I did like it. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. But I think that Jack is starting to really kind of find his niche.
This is what he's been good at all year.
Right.
I mean, it's this kind of stuff going back to the Florida State game. I mean, what we're seeing in the last 2 weeks is similar philosophically to what we saw in the opener against Florida State. Emptying the backfield. I mean, there was even little check downs where Kyren runs for 9, where you're emptying out the backfield. Those are things that we needed to see all year. It worked against Florida State. It's worked the last couple weeks. It just needs to be who they are now.
Yeah,
and it seems to me, and I'll tell you what made me happy. The happiest, I just don't listen to Brian Kelly, and I don't put a lot of stock in what he said. But tonight, as I'm packing up and getting ready to go downstairs and start the show or start my prep for the show, I'm listening to Brian Kelly get interviewed, and he talked about using the pass to set up the run, and it sounded like it wasn't like a one of his planned comments. It was just like off the cuff.
Yep.
I was like, okay, finally gets it. He sees it. You can use the pass to set up almost a 300-yard rushing night.
No doubt.
Right? And then you look at the 40-yard gain you had off of an RPO, right? As I've always said, RPOs have to be considered part of the run game. You had a 40-yard RPO gain on a throw to Lorenzo Styles.
Right.
Right? Those things that was great to see. I mean, they ran a ton of RPOs tonight. And again, an RPO isn't only when they pull and throw. An RPO is whenever they run an RPO. An RPO is a concept, a philosophy, and it's not just when you pull and throw. They ran a ton of RPOs tonight, and it worked really well. And I'll say this: I think Tommy is getting more and more. Coach Reese is getting more and more comfortable with how to use RPOs, meaning it's not just the same thing. There was one play where Cone handed off, like read the read left, and then flipped his hips around and threw an out cut to Michael Mayer. You remember the play I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep. I sure
That's
do.
an RPO. We've never seen him do that before. At least I don't remember him doing that before. The look screens, the bubble screen. I mean, think of it. They scored a touchdown on an RPO on a 7-yard bubble screen. They had a 40-yard gain on a look screen off an RPO. They had several RPO throws that were like quick outs and things. I mean, I loved it. We saw a play where they motioned Avery Davis down, and then in a stack, Vince, and then like they ran a wide, and then he ran like a wide hitch. It was wide open because, as we said in pregame, when you do things like that, North Carolina will turn guys loose, and he did that in this game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Did it on that play. It was, I think, it ended up being like a 20-yard gain on like a 7-yard throw from Jack Cone. We saw the same thing on the Lorenzo style. So overall, I was really pleased with those type of things.
Absolutely, and the offense took a step. Like, remember, we talked about that a bunch this week. Is that okay? The offense did this against USC. Okay, great. Let's see them continue it and take another step. And I think that they did that.
Right. Yep. So that was it. So hey, look, 7-1. Notre Dame's now 7-1. They got the W. Made the plays they needed to make to win the game. Every time it looked like North Carolina was going to grab the momentum, offense and defense stepped up and did what they needed to do to win the game. And that's, it shows. I get frustrated with Brian Kelly, and everybody knows my opinion on Brian Kelly. At the end of the day, it shows how far the program has come, that they can play this way. From 2010 to 2016, this team does not win this game tonight. They don't, because they don't make those winning plays.
Right.
They don't pick each other up.
Yes,
and to me, that's the thing.
Yep.
And so the toughest team Notre Dame is going to play the rest of the way is right now losing to BYU 59-49. If this offense does not score 40 points in every game it plays from the rest of the way, I'm going to be really pissed off.
I agree.
But they got it done. 7-1. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern we will break down the film. Oh, Christopher Fowler, thank you for that. $5 super chat. Appreciate you. I feel like the atmosphere in the stadium was different tonight. It was electric. Vince, how was it compared to last weekend? Was it?
I thought it was better last weekend, to be perfectly honest.
Which makes sense with USC.
Yeah. I thought it was better last weekend. There were some holes in the stadium tonight that didn't fill
the whole game, or just?
Yeah, no, the whole game. I got a picture from my father-in-law that was like, he's like, this is to my left. And it was like 4 wide open, like rows.
Was that the one you sent me?
No, it was a different one. Yeah, it was a different one. So yeah, it didn't fill in quite like it did last week. The light show was cool. They did it a little bit different in between third and fourth quarter. They did a different song, kind of a different light show, which is great. They're adapting. That's great. But again, I put it on the message board. The North Carolina players were more psyched during that period than Notre Dame. Like the whole team came off the sideline. They were on the numbers dancing, the whole team, and Notre Dame was just in their huddle getting ready to go. So you can take that whatever way you want to take it.
Notre Dame still outscored them in the fourth quarter, 13-7.
I know they did. You can take that whichever way you want, but I'm thinking that.
Well, I think that was the first time Carolina had seen that Notre Dame was acting that way last week. That's like, okay, it's fine.
That's true.
And they were playing a little better going in the fourth quarter than they were in this game. Well, so I think they were more focused on.
Because remember, at that point when the third quarter into the fourth quarter, it was North Carolina's ball, I do believe. Yeah, it was North Carolina's ball. They were coming out for a 3rd and 9. The first play of the fourth quarter was a 3rd and 9. That was that dropped screen to Downs that I think they may have picked up the first down if he catches that ball.
Okay.
Do you remember that one?
I don't. I'm trying to look for it in the fourth quarter.
They tried to do the tunnel screen again. It was the first play of the fourth quarter. They tried to do that same tunnel screen that he got the big gainer on, and he dropped it. And I don't think it would have been as big of a game, but it may have been a first down. And that was a huge momentum swing because then the very next play, they pooch punt it. But again, going into the fourth quarter, having North Carolina with that third down, I was like, man, if they convert this, they're all fired
I was
up.
looking at it upside down because I was looking at it upside down. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like if they pull off this 3rd and 9, they're all fired up from the music that Notre Dame just played and the light show. I'm like,
well, and then what did Notre Dame do on right after that, the next drive? That was Kyren Williams' 91-yard touchdown run.
It was. Yeah. The very next play. I mean, after the pooch punt. So yeah. And then the very next play after that was the interception. So
yeah,
obviously
that's where the game got turned.
Yeah.
Now
absolutely.
Again, that's where the red zone has to get better.
Need a touchdown there.
You have to, but hey, they got points and got the win. So that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks to everybody that joined us tonight. We had a great crowd tonight. Appreciate everybody being part of what we're going to do. We're going to dive into the film tomorrow. We're going to come back, try to share some more thoughts. We'll kind of confirm some of the things we talked about, but then try to find some things maybe that we see a little bit differently, break it down, and we'll be back to talk about that tomorrow night. And then, of course, it'll be Navy week. We're going to do something a little different this week. So we're going to do, and I haven't talked about Vince with this yet. We're going to kind of combine the stacking up into one article or one podcast.
Okay.
Because Navy sucks. And I don't want to have a week that's just about Navy. I do want to kind of talk a little bit about the rivalry and why I think it's a lot that it means a lot to me, and why it's a rivalry we should never lose. As Notre Dame fans, it's something we should always appreciate. But we're going to do some other things. We're going to talk a little recruiting this week, and Vince and I are going to kind of get together on some of these conversations and maybe come up with some fun topics. So we're going to mix it up a little bit in Navy week. We'll still have Navy coverage. We'll still have our game predictions on Thursday, and we'll still have a stacking up Friday feature where we'll break things down. But we'll do some other things. But I honestly, it's selfish. I have no desire to do 2 full shows breaking down how Notre Dame stacks up against a terrible Navy team.
And you don't like the triple option anyway.
I hate the triple option. Freaking hate the triple option.
I know you do.
So and they're not even good at running it right now.
No, they're not. No, that's a good point.
So yeah, we're not going to spend a whole week on Navy. We will cover Navy. You will definitely be prepared for what Navy does. But we'll have some other fun stuff planned for this week. So Vince and I will chat a little bit about that again tomorrow. So, and then of course, Monday we'll get to talk about Brian Kelly's press conference, and we'll get to talk about the weekend of college football, because it was a fun weekend of college football.
No doubt.
And it was nice to sit and relax and just be able to watch all the games this week. So it was very nice. And especially when I walked out, I was like, man, I should have done a tailgate this week. And then I walked outside, let my girls, go to the bathroom. I was like, man, I'm glad I didn't do a tailgate this week. I am too soft to do a tailgate today.
It's the only good thing about a night game is that we get to watch football for a while, like all the noon games and et cetera. I mean, it was nice to be able to do that.
You know what I just thought of, Vince? What time is trick or treat tomorrow?
5.
Till when?
7.
Okay, so you're not going to have to miss tomorrow night, so we'll be able to hand out candy and get candy and then still do the show. So it'll be fun. But anyway, we'll have more for you on Monday about what our schedule is going to look like. Tomorrow we're going to focus on Notre Dame, North Carolina.
Yep.
And we will have a Tuesday night show. At least I'll at least be here after the college football playoff ranking comes out. We will have an immediate show. We'll talk about where Notre Dame is, and then we'll just kind of talk about. You'll be there, Vince?
I should be.
And then we'll talk about just the whole thing, and just we'll look at it just college football related, what we think of the top 4, who should be where, and then we'll obviously talk about where Notre Dame stacks up on it as well. So Robin Dennis, thank you for that. Appreciate that very, very much, and hope everybody else enjoyed it. For Vince, I'm Brian. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Hey, Notre Dame got the dub, 7-1. I think they're going to jump into the top 10, back into the top 10 this week. So, and we can finally start talking about the one poll that actually matters.
Yeah, exactly.
And the final piece to make this weekend great, Vince, Michigan lost.
Yeah, baby.
I enjoyed that very, very much.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right. So for Vince, I'm Brian. Have a great rest of your night, folks. We'll see you all tomorrow.